Dr. Nancy White, we're talking about anxiety and depression, and you're speaking here this weekend at the A4M conference about that and therapies with no side effects. When anybody watches TV for an hour, they're bound to get probably 2 or 3 commercials for antidepressants. It's one of the more popular out there. Talk about some of those drugs, not specifically, but in general, and what some of the side effects are and why they're dangerous.
Well, I'm going to have to talk about it from the point of view of a psychologist because I'm not a medical doctor. I don't give prescriptions for drugs, and frankly wouldn't if I could, but don't, I can't. So I look at it from a layman's point of view of logic, and I really believe in things natural, and I really believe in balance, and I really believe in homeostasis. And when we're injecting some sort of a foreign chemical in the body, regardless of what it is or what it's for, I don't believe in that. To me, it throws the body out of its normal, natural balance. And so sometimes in an acute case, not very often, but sometimes in an acute case, temporarily you have to have some kind of intervention that's not natural to the body or nature. But that's not very often. So consequently, I really believe that learning about it, I mean, we've got an internet full of wonderful information now. I think it frustrates some of the doctors because the patients come in and start telling you about things, but I'm not sure that sometimes they don't understand their very specific area better than the doctor does. But it's, logically, and I'm sure there are other aspects to this, and as I say, I'm speaking as a non-medical, layman person, but when I first heard about SSRIs, the popular antidepressants, and that they were selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, and I thought about, what does that mean? Well, it means that we're blocking the reuptake of the serotonin back into the neuron. And it's like, well, that's part of the system. That's our recycling. Well, if we're blocking our recycling, what happens when we recycle? Well, we deplete. Okay, where does that take us? And to me, that was my layman look at it. And so I kept saying to myself, this was probably 15, 18 years ago, and I would say, come on, Nancy, you're not been trained in this. What do you know? You're just looking at logic. And so I told Leonard, my significant other, I said, this is the way I look at this, and it's really strange. I don't understand what they're doing. Well, several years after that, I get this newsletter from Dr. Lark, and Dr. Lark she's a holistic, functional medicine physician from a long time ago that wrote newsletters to women and that kind of thing. And I got this newsletter, and it was saying about antidepressants, and it said exactly what I just said. And it said, why would you want to do that? Go take amino acids that give the body the nutrition it needs to produce this serotonin. So it was like tyrosine and 5-HTP and all this stuff. And so I ran in there to Leonard and I said, look, somebody, some doctor believes the way I believe. Maybe I'm not crazy, maybe I'm not just this layman that's got these silly ideas. And I think it's really true. In fact, there was a doctor, I can't remember, it may have been Dr. Green at A4M about 2 or 3 years ago that did this hysterical presentation for A4M about the middle-aged lady that comes in to see you and, oh, doctor, I've got this problem and that problem and this problem and that problem, and, what am I going to do about it? And you're uncomfortable because you got to do something for her. So what do? You give her an antidepressant. And he said, so how are you going to get her off of it? And so he went on and on. It was a hoot. And then he said, why don't you give her amino acids? And I thought, hooray, I'm right again, So that was fun to be so validated, right. and it getting them off of it. You talk about side effects. I have had many women that have been on antidepressants for years, and they know how I think, and they say, I really want off this antidepressant. And I say, well, I'm not the medical doctor that can take you off of it. You go talk to your doctor. I'll support you in it. And I mean, I've gotten calls in the middle of the night saying, I really want to kill myself. And I say, boy, I do understand. And you just got to keep telling yourself, this is not real. This too shall pass. This is about coming off an antidepressant. And they white knuckle it and they get through it. And I can think of multitudes that have done that because they want it off, not because I was playing doctor and say, you need to do this, you know. It's like they just knew I would support them in that thought process. And frequently their medical doctor does not support them. In fact, they go in and complain and they get it increased or they get a different one. And, you know, to me, that's not health.
Yeah.
It's not optimum wellness.